Economics of the US presidential election. In this video, we're gonna talk about who funds the presidential candidates, what corporations are behind each candidate, what economic interests are they pursuing, and what kind of economy will the next president face. Hi, my name is Vitaly. I am an economist, and in this channel I teach economics and I give you my take on the news as an economist. But before we do it, let me make my personal preferences absolutely clear. And I have to say it because we are on YouTube, and YouTube is owned by Google, and Google is owned by Alphabet, and Alphabet is one of the biggest supporters of the Democratic Party. And there is a freedom of speech on YouTube, when you are free to say anything that pleases Google and the Democratic Party. And if you say anything different, you're toast. You're cancelled. So, for my own safety and for Google, I fully support Joe Biden. Sorry, it's Kamala Harris today.
Poor hubby. Poor hubby.
So I support Joe Biden or Kamala Harris or whoever the Democratic Party will appoint to be the next president of the United States. And I live in Canada, so my personal preferences will not matter for the US election. Now that I sucked up to Google, let's talk about economics of the US election. To understand the economics of the US election, we need to look at political candidates and their donors. Who funds his campaign? Who funds her campaign? And those donors, those corporations, they want to make it a better world. Just kidding! Of course, they care only about themselves. And they fund Trump or Harris to promote their agenda. So let's take a look at the biggest donors of the Democratic Party. Basically, it's big tech and big banks. And this list of donors of the Democratic Party explains the program of the Democratic Party and Kamala Harris. Globalization, free trade, economic freedom, open borders, and more foreign aid. Because for big banks, money has no borders. For big tech, technology has no borders. Did you know that the biggest market of Netflix is Europe? The biggest market for Facebook is India, not America. For them, for big banks and big tech companies, America is a nice market, but it's not the biggest one and not the most important one. And now let's take a look at the donors of the Republican Party and Donald Trump. Mostly it's industries, manufacturing. And that is in stark contrast with the Democratic Party, because these donors, these corporations are interested in America. If America is doing well, if Americans are getting richer, these corporations are doing well.
America first.
And this list of donors of the Republican Party explains the program of Donald Trump. Protectionism, the protection of American manufacturers, tariffs on imports and subsidies for exports, a stronger border control, and of course, less foreign aid. If elected, Donald Trump will support American energy and American manufacturing, and his policy will be very inflationary. If Kamala Harris wins the election, she will support green energy and her policy will also be very inflationary. Either way, expect high inflation returning in 2025. I am gonna say something and everybody will hate me for it. Trump voters and Biden voters will hate me for saying this. The next president of the United States of America will be a weak president. Whoever becomes the president of the United States of America will be a weak, helpless and powerless president. The next president will inherit a stagnating economy, the economy on the verge of a recession, at the risk of high inflation returning. The next president will inherit the economy in which fiscal policy goes against the monetary policy. While the US Federal Reserve is trying to suppress the economy to reduce inflation, the Biden administration has been doing the exact opposite. It was spending as much as possible, triggering even higher inflation. The next president will inherit the economy in which wages, real wages adjusted for inflation, are falling, and people of this country are getting poorer and poorer. The next president will inherit the exploding public debt. The US public debt hit $34 trillion. It's an all-time high level for America and the biggest in the world. But you are smart. You probably want to say, hey, yes, America has the biggest debt in the world, but also the biggest economy. So how does the debt stand relative to the economy? It's 125% of the GDP. And this debt to GDP ratio, 125%, is not the biggest in the world. A few countries have even higher debt to GDP ratios. Barbados, Lebanon, Republic of the Congo, Japan, and Greece. And Greece has been in a recession for about 10 years. And Japan has been in a deep and severe economic depression for decades by now. And the United States is walking the same path, the path of Greece and Barbados. Interest payments on the US public debt hit $1 trillion a year. $1 trillion a year, that's more than $2 billion per day. And to whom that money are going to? They are going to mostly to Japan and China. If you live in the United States, how do you feel that $2 billion a day of your money are going to Japan and China? And if you live in Japan and China, how do you feel about getting $2 billion per day from the United States? Put your comments below. I'll be happy to see what you think. Whoever becomes the next president, however smart he or she is, the next president can't stop the inevitable. He or she can't change the economy of no growth, high inflation, and ever rising public debt. It's just economics. And that was my take on economics of the US election. Put your comments below and I'll talk to you next time.